It's my pleasure to introduce the Prostate Cancer Foundation's CEO and President, Dr. Jonathan W. Simons. I say it every year, and I will say it again. It is my pleasure every day to wake up and work with Dr. Simons on the mission of the Prostate Cancer Foundation to find better cures and diagnostics for men with advanced prostate cancer. Jonathan is a physician scientist of huge proportion. His ability as a physician, a medical oncologist, is truly unparalleled, and he brings a translational research capability that few other physician scientists share globally. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Simons, who will present the State of the Science in 2020, our annual lecture from the CEO and President.
It's a profound privilege of a lifetime and an awesome responsibility to be the CEO and President of the Prostate Cancer Foundation. I'm deeply honored to give the 2020 State of the Science speech this year at our scientific retreat. And my proposition or my theme is Beyond Pandemic and Exomes Only. In my remarks today, I want to answer 5 questions. First, who is digitally with us? Second, what has happened since 2019, the 26th annual scientific retreat? What's happened in science, in treatment science for prostate cancer patients, and PCF delivery for patients in 2020? Third, what challenges do prostate cancer patients, PCF research enterprise face in 2021? Fourth, what are PCF's plans for 2021? And fifth and finally, what can you do to advance PCF's plans for patients and discovery in 2021? So first, who's digitally with us? Well, it's extraordinary. It's historic. A number of records. We have over 1,004 participants thanks to the internet. 748 from academia, a record. 38 from government agencies in prostate cancer and cancer research, a record. 223 representatives of biopharma and the pharmaceutical industry, a record. 110 institutions conducting research, 33 countries, a record. 63 biotech and biopharmaceutical companies, a record. And 188, a new record for research posters. And of course, the record-holding Lou Gehrig Iron Horse consecutive attendee of scientific retreats and never having missed a prostate cancer board meeting. We have one founder and chairman and very active chairman, Michael Milken. In addition, we have our entire board of directors, and very importantly for this audience, our development committee and our science committee called our Discovery and Translation Committee that's been chaired by Chris Evanson for 14 straight years. And of course, our medical director, who also is our founding medical director, Skip Holden, who has also not missed a scientific retreat. He's been to all 27. And of course, we have, in addition to this, we have all our friends at Movember, the global community that's done so much to support prostate cancer research and advanced prostate cancer care. And we have the Prostate Cancer Research Enterprise represented. We're E-present with electrons at least. And the enterprise right now, for those of you, looks like this September. Over 1,300 PCF-funded scientists, postdocs, graduate students. 227 active research awards at $120 million at work for patients and for science. 102 active Team Science Challenge Awards. I'll talk about Team Science Challenge Awards delivering breakthroughs and breakouts for improving the standard of care. That's 94.3 million at work. And now we have 244 research centers in 20 countries, all listed below, doing Prostate Cancer Foundation Research Enterprise funded science. The second question I thought I'd address is what's happened since 2019 in science and in science for patients that PCF has driven and in PCF's delivery for patients in 2020. And of course, maybe the most historic finding is actually off our planet because there may be life on Venus as the most maybe profound observation made this year, even beyond the coronavirus. As most of you know, in Nature Astronomy, phosphine's been discovered in the Venus cloud decks, or the Venus may have a microbiome, quite frankly. And what's fascinating is if you read these papers about phosphine gas in the cloud decks of Venus, it reads like a prostate cancer biomarker research paper. I'm just quoting that, quote, "There are no abiotic false positives for phosphine." Basically a molecule that requires an organism, the way we understand chemistry, to be generated. And basically like microbes floating aerosolized, if this doesn't sound familiar, like a biomarker, these observations of phosphine at over 20 parts per billion have been made independently, as if they've run phase 2 or phase 3 validation studies at millimeter wavelength range. But back on Earth, of course, 2020 for the Prostate Cancer Foundation became a Rick's Cafe moment. So if people recall, Humphrey Bogart looks up and there's Ingrid Bergman, and he says, in Casablanca, of all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world, she walks into mine. So on the 2nd of April, 2020, our Rick's Cafe moment was that of all 80,000 plus proteins in the human proteome, the SARS-CoV-2 virus had to walk in and cause a killer pandemic pneumonia through the prostate cancer TMPRSS2 protein. And for those of you who need a little bit of a primer, which is a lot of the audience that's with us for the very first time, the SARS virus is a bit like a burglar that kills. And as you can see here, the TMPRSS protein acts as a door handle. A team led by Hoffman and colleagues in Germany discovered that you have basically the burglar gets in, the virus gets in by the ACE2 receptor, but in order to turn the virus into an entering phenomenon, and ultimately in some patients tragically cause pneumonia and other end organ damage and death, TMPRSS2, which is one of the most well-studied proteins in the proteome of how prostate cancer spreads and metastasizes, is a central player. So it's fair to say that the Prostate Cancer Foundation became Prevent Coronavirus Fatalities, PCF. And it's fair to say that we have an enormous scientific body of information on TMPRSS2 as a drug target. And so we swung into action. Howard, Mike Milken, Jonathan Simons, Andre Miyahira. And by May 13th, we'd organized over 450 experts in prostate cancer research, drug discovery, and infectious disease. And as you can see in this major medical journal these days, Forbes Online magazine, drugs that target TMPRSS2 that have been discovered, developed for prostate cancer, for pancreatitis, have become rational potential antiviral drugs. In addition, basically the testosterone regulation of TMPRSS2 became one of the most important scientific questions in the entire fight against COVID-19. And PCF stood strong, donors actually gave, and we now have 2 randomized clinical trials led by Dr. Reddick and Dr. Vinetz, you'll hear about respectively, driving Prostate Cancer Foundation science into antiviral clinical trial research. And the activity is global, just as the prostate cancer is global. And this is just a snapshot between our Veterans Centers of Precision Oncology Excellence, which redeployed with PCF, between academic investigators and around the world, over 30 young investigators. Within 35 days of the discovery and publication of TMPRSS2 as an important antiviral drug target, this foundation was highly engaged in what it does incredibly well, which is not just fund first in field research, but create communities of research. But in oncology, since prostate cancer didn't stop during COVID-19, and neither did PCF, and we've had $840 million of investment in our 27 years towards ending prostate cancer death. We read from the American Cancer Society that the death rate in the United States is reduced to about 52%. But what this means in 2020 is 48% of the work remains. 48% of advanced disease patients need curative discovery and development work, and this development work remains. And really, on Earth, in prostate cancer research, in collaboration, it was a greater year than the year before COVID changed our lives. In terms of unpublished knowledge exchanges, sharing of unpublished data by young investigators, by our Twitter journal club, by our standalone unpublished journal club, and actually by this scientific retreat and by poster sessions, this is the greatest year in the history of prostate cancer research that's been recorded for unpublished data sharing and collaboration. And this, we think, will tide us through, led by Andre Amir-Hira. This will tide us through the challenging months and perhaps one year ahead. There was a decrease by about 20% in peer-reviewed articles. If my colleague Thomas Johnson mined this for all it was worth. And we were liberal. You could have a peer-reviewed letter to the New England Journal, not just an article to the New England Journal. But basically from laptops and living rooms and basements and closets and garages, the prostate cancer research enterprise was contributing, and in top-tier journals, really not a very significant in reporting key findings that could impact and improve the standard of care. But out of about 4,000 papers to survey this year, I thought there was a larger 2020 theme. And theme's an interesting word because it derives from Greek, and it's a deep word by etymology, but it fundamentally means proposition. And I felt the proposition for research this year at the level of frontiers for prostate cancer was that research itself that would make a difference in saving the lives of prostate cancer patients and preventing prostate cancer extended now far beyond exomes. And what I thought I would do in a very brief and highly selected way, just feature a couple of observations in 2020 in the pandemic as they reported that I think change how at the Prostate Cancer Foundation, we're looking at how to end prostate cancer deaths with research. And I want to feature and suggest to everyone who's ever prescribed hormone therapy for a prostate cancer patient that this year they read Ram Mani's JCI paper, which is listed here. I think Ram wins the PCF Methodology of the Year award for CHIA-PET, which is chromatin interaction analysis by paired end-tag sequencing with RNA pol-2. But the important thing is at the header, which is with bioinformatics and a very clever technique, Ram has really proven that prostate cancer is a disease of three-dimensional changes in genome organization that have very specific translational consequences in terms of protein expression and cell biology. But upstream all of that is a new level of organization. And if I could for a second, I wanted to hit very quickly some of the highlights of this paper. It's actually 3 papers in one. But the androgen receptor itself, androgen receptor enhancers drive androgen receptor activity independent of whether the gene is amplified in a profound way. Second, with FOXA1, the androgen receptor is regulating EIF2 and really translation itself. A lot of the core machinery, protein machinery in carcinogenesis and tumor biology are very centrally defined in this new way. This paper is so important because Ram also shows that there's autoregulation of both FOXA1 and the androgen receptor. There's this whole feed-forward mechanism which we don't understand, but we need to solve if we're going to solve the problem of prostate cancer. I think HOXP13 clearly comes out as a master regulator. c-MYC, it was a great year for c-MYC in studying our disease. Master regulator, really important implications. EZH2, master regulator. And very importantly, surrounding c-MYC, AR, and FOXA1 activity, helping us better understand, we think, why you don't need c-MYC mutations to have c-MYC become a central driver of the lethality of prostate cancer and progression. And finally, and I'm quoting Ram and his colleagues, Germline risk PCF risk alleles are enriched in the master regulator enhancers, found in non-malignant prostate cancer cells as well as luminal cells. So an enormous amount of our understanding of prostate cancer, we think, is going to come as a consequence of studying three-dimensional organization of master regulators. Now that the exomes are, so to speak, in the public database. A second really important observation this year, which is beyond exomes, is the polygenic ancestry of prostate cancer. This is just a snapshot of 7 risk alleles from Chris Hyman and Roz Eels. What it shows is now the power of looking across the genome. Perhaps prostate cancer is the only major cancer where polygenicity is so important, but look at the distribution with a relative risk lifetime of 2, let's say, to 13 for African Americans compared to European descent. And when you really boil it down, what you're looking at is a 2.7 times greater density of African Americans at risk for prostate cancer with this analysis. And you have to ask yourself, is this at the core of health injustice for African American incidence of prostate cancer? And it's actionable, as I'll discuss later. Again, searching for exomes central to our understanding of the disease, but these markers are intragenic. This is outside of exomes in fascinating areas of the prostate cancer genome. We need to understand that regulate genes, not simply code for amino acids. A next and really important beyond the exome observation was made by, just like Ram Mani, a former PCF young investigator, a prodigious alumnus prostate cancer young investigator, Felix Feng, with his mentorship. But we have for the first time an epigenomic landscape of prostate cancer. And essentially, again, you'll see the little orange arrow pointing at MYC as having intragenic regulators. And basically 22% of prostate cancer, as you can see to the far right, has very different hypermethylated expression pattern. And we're going to need to better understand what causes basically a quarter of prostate cancer patients to veer in this very different direction, and what therapeutic consequences does this have. So a great goal that I set in 2012, that we could have an epigenomic whole genome map of prostate cancer for all of us doing this research was accomplished. And importantly, we had over 7 prostate cancer, former prostate cancer young investigators actually collaborate and participate with Felix in accomplishing this great public accessible contribution from our Challenge Award program. In precision oncology, it was another great year. I don't think many people in this audience are confused by the schema, but it's the right drug for the right patient at the right time based on reading genes, proteins. And prostate cancer care in 2020 became a germline, genetic, genomic, proteomic, and radiomic, as well as anatomic disease for care in 2020. And excitingly, for patients in terms of life extension, not 1 but 2 FDA approvals in May, olaparib and rucaparib, which are captured here. And we're very excited that never again will people question that prostate cancer lacked the science to deliver to patients precise, and we hope ultimately accurate life-extending treatment. And it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, our Challenge Award program, delivering both Rubraca and Lynparza, the commercial names rucaparib and olaparib respectively, the Prostate Cancer Foundation served as Archimedes yet again to deliver life-extending drugs by investing first in initial academic discovery and translational development. And if you believe JAMA Internal Medicine, that it's really about $700 million on average to deliver an FDA-approved drug for cancer now, down from $2 billion that people use, our leverage averaged out over all these drugs, all from Challenge Awards, all from donor dollars, Our leverage on average is about 70x, where the real outcome is not just important medicines, but increasing survival of advanced prostate cancer patients. It was also a beyond the exomes year for immunotherapy and the immune microenvironment, because there were over 203 papers in PubMed if you searched immunotherapy or immunology and prostate cancer, but you couldn't find one that really was predictive of a checkpoint immune response. And in a very important paper by yet another former prostate cancer young investigator, Pam Sharma, there are exceptional responses. It's very clear that nivolumab and ipilimumab is active in some patients, but it's also very clear is we need much deeper understanding of the immune or the tumor times, the tumor immune microenvironment that's antineoplastic, because we're not converting greater than 50% of patients from cold or cool tumors to roasting hot tumors with antineoplastic immune cell infiltrates and actually remissions. So a great mystery to solve in the coming months and years is defining binaries for significant patient benefit for prostate cancer, because in Pam's paper beautifully and very carefully denotes over 50% of patients develop very significant side effects, while some patients, like one, a minority, perhaps 2 or 3 or 4%, really can have extraordinary immune responses and extraordinary anti-tumor effects. So work to do, but it's not obvious that the homologous recombination genes and immunogenicity and response to checkpoint inhibitors is algorithmic, or it's not obvious in Santa Monica today. It was also a great year for drug discovery. We added basically 6 more targets to our precision prescription pad. We're up to 44 from 38. And what's important is that for those that do this work, that these drug targets around these gene product pathways are shared by 73 forms of human cancer beyond prostate cancer. So these are key control points for the future discovery of new precision medicines to treat advanced cancers. And as we like to remember, in October, Prostate Cancer Foundation supports Breast Cancer Awareness Month year-round, because we're prosecuting 34% of these control point, these precision drug discovery targets are actually shared by metastatic breast cancer. So we're hopeful in the coming years for a convergence on a number of these targets between work in breast cancer and prostate cancer and other cancers, as we try to accelerate in a period of some diminished resources, we accelerate our ability to drug the currently undruggable. So in the time remaining, 3 more questions to answer. First, what challenges do prostate cancer patients in the PCF Research Enterprise face in 2021? Well, care has been impaired. Research laboratories were shut and then they're slowed, and you can read it and get depressed in the ASCO post or in the cancer letter. And new nonprofit cancer research funding is already critically depressed. The American Cancer Society has dismissed over 1,000 workers, and Cancer Research UK is projecting a real shortfall in the ability to support cancer research in the United Kingdom. But after thinking about reading the Serenity Prayer, where it's the courage to change the things you can, having serenity to accept the things you can't change, and having the wisdom to know the difference, we have the courage to basically have the following plans, and these are our plans for 2021 for the entire community. First and foremost, we're going to encourage, fund, and protect the young, our young investigators, our future. You've just seen most of the major contributions in the year in science, clinical development, have all been made by alumni of our Prostate Cancer Foundation young investigators. So if you're a young investigator or want to be one, we're for you. You are our future, and we are not going to mortgage it. Second, we're going to fund health justice research. Black Lives Matter in prostate cancer research means taking the science, this polygenic understanding all of a sudden of West African ancestry and increased risk, and doing something about it to find prostate cancer earlier. I've referenced Chris Heyman's beautiful European urology paper here, but I just want to highlight this again and why it's so energized Robert F. Smith to give us a major gift to drive forward an effort to end health disparities in African Americans in this decade, but really start with the core of the science of it, which is that there are alleles like a West African ancestry allele, RS7275854, which seems more like a password for a quant. Anyway, if you carry one allele and you're in a family and you have a study the size of Chris's with his colleagues, where you have 9,000 cases and 143 cases of high-risk families and 8,500 controls, you can find that there's a significant increase, there's significant earlier onset of the disease. You can find more aggressive disease in West African ancestry, and that you can prove that it's enriched in prostate cancer family histories if you just take one and the patient knows it. So with Robert Smith's support, we intend really to fund health justice research by partnering with the National Cancer Institute and the Veterans Administration in 2021, work with the Special Challenge Award to develop the polygenic risk score, work with all of you to develop sort of the format for earlier strategic detection, including imaging, baseline PSA, and including, importantly, men's health education. And we intend to get ahead of the fish plot of multiple mutations, if we can, using a polygenic risk score and a whole new strategy for lifting out those that who are at somewhere between 2 and 12 times lifetime risk of getting prostate cancer, and a significant number of men in our country and around the world of West African ancestry with risks far higher than that any $50 PCR assessment could actually determine for them if they had a garage and knew how to basically do this kind of biotechnology research. Fourth, and very importantly, is we're going to sustain and expand our Prostate Cancer Foundation VA National Network of Precision Oncology for every prostate cancer patient in the VA. That's 500,000 heroes with prostate cancer, with a goal that every treatment decision is made with precision. And we wanted to give enormous acknowledgement to Dr. Rachel Ramoni and Miss Deborah Shear, who both this year won the Prostate Cancer Foundation Board of Directors Public Service Award. And we look forward to engaging more and more investigators in basic and translational science into the network. I need to go back one because I want to give a shout out as well to the emergence of Captain America Shields in Boston and in Portland, where we now have new centers of excellence affiliated with Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and in Portland under Dr. Julie Graff, the Oregon Health Sciences University NCI Comprehensive Cancer Center. So we're at 12 and we're gunning for 21 total centers by the time we exit with a sustainable model. Fifth, we're going to fund peer-reviewed first-in-field lethal disease, basic translational and clinical research as challenge awards, as charitable giving permits. Up and down the spectrum, basically, we're interested in first-in-field ideas. But the bottom line for our Challenge Award program is, if you've ever heard it, the phrase, smoke them if you got them, for us it's going to be, we're going to fund them if we've got them. We're going to fund them if we raise them. But applications that are drugging the currently undruggable, which is basically 15 of 44 targets on our precision oncology prescription pad R&D list, have no candidate, basically have no academic lead compound. So we're still going to be encouraging efforts to drug the currently undruggable that are central control points for prostate cancer growth, metastasis, hormone refractory behavior, and escape from immune responses. And if you want more information anytime about what we are interested in funding, please go to pcf.org and get yourself notified. Fifth and the final question is, what can you do? What can you do to advance PCF's plans for patients and discovery in 2021? Well, there's some answers to that question. First, you can care. And when PCF calls for assistance, definitely answer Howard Sewell. Second, introduce us via text, email, phone, or Zoom to anyone expressing a generous impulse towards your research or any research against prostate cancer. Help us empower patients. Encourage every patient to download the PCF guide at pcf.org, and clinicians in particular, read it or skim it and have PCF patient guides and wellness guides in your waiting rooms. And when you do this, you're actually putting into place the leading literature at the right reading level, written by 21 associate editors, the world's leading prostate cancer clinicians, expert scientists in both topic areas, every one of which I'm sure is watching this scientific retreat online. We have absolutely the world's leading knowledge, real time and current. And every patient deserves now the knowledge that some of our patients get when they come through the clinic door. You can defend peer review and scientific methods and truths if threatened. You should vote. As Pericles said, freedom is the sure possession of those alone who have the courage to defend it. Discover and develop first-in-field drugs, as I've discussed, for advanced prostate cancer. Fill out the Precision Oncology prescription pad, target by target, to FDA approvals. This is God's work. Deliver new phase 1-2 translational trial designs to PCF. Will assist you. Identify new control points with basic and translational research in lethal disease. Detect lethal prostate cancer strategically 5 to 15 years earlier than PSA testing and digital rectal exam by developing new biotechnologies to accompany the emerging polygenic risk score testing. Dissect how nutrition, the microbiome, metabolic sciences can prevent, reverse, or slow prostate cancer initiation and progression. Mentor the next generation of PCF young investigators. Look what they've accomplished. Recruit for new PCF young investigators and PCF VA young investigator awardees for our VA program in 2021, and collaborate and form new teams and apply for challenge awards in 2021. Finally, inspect the latest PCF research and development prescription pad, mark it up, and if you've got targets, email me at jsimons@pcf.org. We're that interested, and obviously we're delivering FDA-approved drugs this way. Share your unpublished data and RFA ideas with our unpublished knowledge exchanges when Andrea Miyahiro reaches out to you. Apply in 2021 for new NIH, DoD, and VA funds, because nota bene, funding there has not yet been cut. Engage in precision treatment research with VA colleagues, if you can, with your nearest VA, and contact Rebecca Levine at rlevine@pcf.org if you've got ideas for research in our expanding veterans program, where resources are increased. Champion the Bipartisan Veterans Prostate Treatment Research Act, HR 6092, which just passed in the House. It's on the way to the Senate, thanks to our great friend, doctor and urologist Neil Dunn out of Florida. Partner with us to feature your research on PCF Digital and with PCF donors when we call you. Participate in Movember 2020. And last and not least, stay well and safe. Godspeed in ending prostate cancer with us. Again, it's a privilege and honor to be with you today.